Hi, I'm Martin Wilding, BIM Practice Manager for KPF's London office. Welcome to this presentation on implementing and managing the coordination process. My aim is to share tips and pointers to help others ensure that issue tracking and management is as simple and effective as can be. After a very quick introduction, we'll cover the following topics. First, finding the coordination tool that is right for you. Considering some of the barriers to successful implementation of a coordination management tool, and we'll then dive into laying out the process of actually defining the use of the management tool, most of which will apply regardless of the size of the project or the tool you use. I'll be presenting today from the perspective of an architectural practice, though the principles should be considered universal. The company I work for, Cohen Pedersen Fox, is a global architectural design firm with experience of delivering some of the world's tallest and largest buildings. Each project is a unique response to its location, environment, and setting, avoiding preconceptions and stylistic formulae. Delivering these unique and complex projects requires a whole range of software experts and workflows to be in place. Our dedicated team of technology experts have mostly passed through architectural education and practice before choosing to specialize in various technology fields. We support projects across all phases, from inception to delivery. These specialists are roughly grouped into 6 main disciplines, working together under the wider design technology banner. This includes the BIM team, with whom I spend most of my time, and who will provide the focus of today's content. To support all of our projects utilizing BIM across our offices, we are supported by a core team of BIM specialists, led by Veronica Quintero in New York and myself in London. As a quick introduction to myself, I've now been at KPF for over 10 years. Originally, I started out in the industry as an architect, but over the years have increasingly specialized in BIM implementation and management. I currently lead the design technology efforts in our London office, and I'm a senior member of our global design technology management team. So, onto the presentation. Today we'll look at a couple of aspects of implementing a coordination management tool. We'll start with the basics, choosing the tool. In many cases, a coordination management tool may be specified or mandated by a client or contractor. But where do you start if you want to implement your own, or if you are that employing party or the contractor? For this short presentation, we won't go into specific consideration of clash detection workflows and best practice, but for many people, do bear in mind that it's likely that your clash detection workflows, be they manual or automated, will form the basis of many of the issues that you need to manage. For the sake of this presentation, we'll define a coordination management tool, simply as a product that primarily allows you to track and manage design and coordination issues across multiple stakeholders, such as design consultants, contractors, and so on. Typically, these tools will provide much wider functionality than simply issue management, making the choice of tool an important but potentially tricky decision. Many such coordination tools exist, and if you've recently looked into choosing a collaboration tool, you may have been surprised by just how busy the market is. So first ask yourself, what do you actually need the tool to do? It's often too easy to watch various project demos or jump into trial subscriptions, but what are the criteria that you will use to make your choice? With a simple search, you'll come across several tools that you've likely heard of or even used before, and the logos shown here are certainly not an exhaustive list, but name recognition isn't everything, and even then, how would you decide between available options? There are various criteria you may wish to consider. I'll share my thoughts, but be sure to set out what matters to you most. Some of the major considerations for this type of tool include some fundamentals, such as, do you need a 3D viewer? Do you simply need an issue tracker or the ability to create issues in an authoring software? Or do you need a tool that has its own 2D and 3D environment to allow you to create issues based on imported or linked information? Do you want a service that is primarily web-based, or are you happy with a desktop installation? Or do you want a solution that offers both, depending on the user. Many tools now also have mobile options for you to access and interact with issues, either on the go or on the construction site via tablets and phones. Is data security or sovereignty important to you? Do you need the ability to host your own instance of the tool and its associated database? Some solutions offer you the ability to choose from various server locations, depending on where your project will be built. Others allow you, or can help you, to set up an install of their product on infrastructure that is owned, operated, and controlled by you or the appointing party when necessary. Do you need the tool to be able to carry out clash detection natively, such as Navisworks, Celebri, or Revista? Or give some thought to how you'll be identifying issues? Will it be largely through visual identification and review, or will you rely on an automated clash process? Also consider if you wish to run clash tests in the same platform, or if you will need to synchronize issues with another platform or tool. I'd also recommend looking into how the platform manages those clashes. How easily can clashes be grouped for discussion, perhaps, saving the need to review each one individually? Once you've defined your test criteria, go out to the market and research the options. It's worth applying a scoring mechanism to your criteria too, so you can more easily compare what is available to you. This is probably also the stage where you'll get a better understanding of cost and understand the various subscription options available. Away from technical capability, one major area you also need to consider is how easy will it be to implement a tool effectively across a project team? Let's look at a couple of the potential barriers. Often the tricky part of implementing a coordination tool isn't which tool to use, but ultimately who will pay for the tool. The route taken here can have a major impact on the success of any tool or platform introduced. Some aspects to consider include: will the client, or you as the appointing party or contractor, be providing the platform for a variety of consultants and stakeholders? This is often the best way to ensure uptake is successful, though for one party, it's obviously the most expensive way of doing this. Will the tool be mandated for consultants or stakeholders to use? Will you expect them to provide a license if so? Also bear in mind that this may potentially exclude some parties from the coordination process, so it's worth considering if there are options available that are free viewers or add-ins that consultants may use to create and manage issues, or if they will need a full license to fully interact with the project. The image here shows a current project where the client, Canary Wharf Group, has provided a collaboration tool for the design and construction team to use, and agreeing to fund the platform because of the recognized benefits of implementing it. Just take a look at the talks available at this conference, or at the list of exhibitors for any AEC technology event, and you'll see there are plenty of options for coordination management platforms available to you. While competition should only be encouraged, this does pose one problem. Not many tools have been universally implemented across the industry. Each client or contractor may likely have their own preference, and you may even find that they choose to implement a replacement tool as the market grows and changes and features are added to each platform. The other major aspect to successful implementation is, of course, training. As we just mentioned, it's safe to assume that not everyone will have prior experience with any given tool. Consider how you will ensure competency across the team. Are you happy to provide training for the wider team yourself? Or is it something that the software vendors can run on your behalf, either for free or for a payment? And can you send out a link to standard online training? Or do you need to produce something more bespoke and specific for your project? Also consider how and where you document exactly how you expect people to use the tool. The BIM execution plan should set out exchange formats and upload requirements, if there are any, as well as the frequency of coordination meetings and typical agendas for those. You should also include any key requirements for how the tool should be used, how coordination issues should be flagged, and just as importantly, how they should be addressed, and resolved. It's often a good idea to separate the more technical details of using collaboration platforms from the main body of the BEP for the sake of brevity and ease of navigation. Consider containing information specific to using the coordination platform in an appendix, or you may wish to include a separate guide summarizing technical aspects such as settings or basic instructions on using the tool. The BEP should remain focused on the process and workflows. Adding too many technical instructions can mean important information is lost. This next part of the presentation considers what happens after you've chosen the tool you wish to implement. While I'll use Revisto as an example here, you'll find many similar functions and operations in most coordination tools, though terminology may differ slightly. I'll touch on some of the key areas that should be central to any proposed workflow. The screenshot here, taken from our Revisto protocol, shows some of the fields typical to issues created within these tools. For example, fields for status, priority, and deadline are key ones that should be defined in your protocols. Let's have a look at each of those in some more detail. First off, what is a priority? Most coordination tools will allow you to set priority. It allows you to quickly quantify how urgently a response is required. In some cases, you'll find that each available priority option may not be precisely defined, and also that available options may differ between tools. Just to use Revisto's default options as an example, what is exactly a blocker? And what really is the difference between minor and trivial? It is useful to include definitions of each one in the BEP. Relating the priority level to the likely impact is the most common method of defining these. Also consider that you may not wish to use all of the available options. You're certainly under no obligation to. You may wish to select 3 or 4 out of a wider group in order to simplify the process. Just be sure to clearly communicate which ones you're using. Here is an example taken from our own protocols, using only 4 of the 5 available options in Revisto. First, a minor issue, as we define it, affects only a single discipline. For example, an architecture versus architecture clash that should be easy enough to fix without further discussion once it's been highlighted. A major issue is one that affects multiple disciplines. For example, a structure versus MEP clash, perhaps. And if an immediate agreement cannot be reached in the coordination session, further discussion is likely required to resolve it. Though in this instance, impact on program is likely to be minimal. A critical issue again affects multiple disciplines and will likely need to be referred to the wider design team meetings or workshops for further discussion and resolution. These issues, the critical ones, are also likely to cause knock-on effects to the program if not resolved. Finally, a blocker is an urgent issue that needs immediate attention to prevent restricted progress of the project until it's resolved. Deadline is of course another common term and a commonly used field in these tools, but one that may often be approached in an ad hoc manner, where again some simple definitions can really aid the process. Don't waste time negotiating deadlines issue by issue in coordination meetings, but instead introduce a series of rules. Perhaps tying deadlines to the priority level can be a useful way of handling this. For example, you could say that a critical issue, using our protocols, must be responded to within 1 or 2 weeks, or perhaps by the next confirmed model exchange. For minor issues, you may wish to set the deadline in line with the model freeze date, or perhaps the end of the current stage. Also be clear to state exactly what a deadline means. By that date, do you expect the nominated person to have simply started reviewing the issue? or to have fully resolved the issue and closed it out, or perhaps somewhere in between. Issue status is again a fairly common function of most coordination tools, and again one whose use should be clearly defined. Again, using Revisto as the example, in their case you have 4 options: open, in progress, solved, and closed. In our workflow, all items are created as open, and this in effect means that the issue is being created, but is yet to be responded to and may not have been seen yet. As soon as the assignee starts to look at the issue, they should set the status to in progress to acknowledge that. This implies that the issue is under consideration, but is yet to be resolved. As soon as a resolution is identified and implemented in the Exchange models, i.e. it appears in model viewers, status should be set to solved. This indicates that the original issue creator can now review the issue and confirm that they are happy with the resolution. If they are, that's great. The issue can be marked as closed, and, depending on how you filter issues or report them, it should drop off the list of issues requiring review and attention at this point. If, however, the creator feels that the issue has not been fully resolved, or feel it has been marked as solved incorrectly or accidentally, they should revert the status to open, meaning that it will reappear on the assignee's list of issues for their attention. One of the other keys to running any successful coordination meeting or process is choosing exactly what to focus on. We've all been in meetings that feel like they go on forever once each individual clash or coordination issue is individually reviewed. So give consideration to how you may group issues. Can you collate them based on, say, building level, grid intersection, or by object to suggest just a few ways of grouping issues? You should also agree a strategy with your wider team on how to choose which issues are discussed in any particular in-person coordination meeting or online. Can you highlight an example of an issue that is similarly repeated across the project and discuss a solution once to be applied? Or can you agree to focus on a particular area of the building in line with demands laid out by the project program, for example, focusing on the basement or major plant areas? Another aspect that should form a part of your defined process is what happens at key milestones and at project handover. Despite everyone's best efforts, it's likely, perhaps at least between earlier design stages, that some issues will remain unresolved. They may be awaiting more detailed design or the input of a specialist subcontractor, perhaps. Give consideration to how you flag and document remaining items, including the reason why they've yet to be resolved. And particularly this is the case if it's likely that they'll be handed over to another incoming party to take responsibility for. Pretty much all coordination tools have a reporting option, allowing you to summarize and export all current or even all created issues. Spend some time building out templates that might serve as meeting summaries, discipline-specific reports, and stage closeout reports too. So, we've touched on a number of points in this presentation. Some of the things I hope you can take away from this include taking a structured approach to identifying what your and the project's needs and requirements are prior to investing in a coordination management tool. Considering wider implications of tool rollouts, who will finance the implementation, and how will competency be ensured. And also, making sure you clearly define how you expect any tool to be used, providing clear definitions and processes for the benefit of everyone. I thank you for your time, and I hope you found this presentation useful.